One man returns home from work and decides to unwind by playing some video games. The following day, as he leaves for work, he suddenly suffers a cardiac arrest and loses consciousness. When he regains awareness, he finds himself in another world, hearing voices around him. He opens his eyes to see a woman standing before him, and he wonders who she is. He thinks he might have been rushed to the hospital by a good Samaritan, and the woman could be the nurse on duty. Looking around, he notices that the hospital appears old-fashioned. Suddenly, a dog starts barking and unexpectedly flies past him, leaving him astonished to witness a flying dog. A maid enters the room with a tray, informing the lady that her tea is ready. The lady thanks the maid, who comments on how cute her son is. The man catches a glimpse of his reflection in the tray and can hardly believe it. He has been reincarnated as a baby. He wonders if he is dreaming. He learns that he was born in the 200th year of the summer 4th calendar and named ARS Lent in the province of Mission. 3 years later, ARS has grown significantly. One day, while in the study, a maid knocks and enters, bringing him tea. He thanks her, realizing that he lost his life in his previous world and has been reborn as ARS Lent. From birth, he mastered reading and writing, giving him knowledge about this new world. He knows he was born in the Summer 4th Empire, but the map he saw confirmed he was no longer on Earth. He discovers a technique called magic, used by people to conjure mysterious phenomena. The world feels reminiscent of a game. The Lowen family, into which he was born, is a noble household responsible for managing a small region known as Lamber. Their grand and beautiful home resembles a castle, with numerous servants attending to them, including a live-in chef who prepares delightful meals daily. ARS feels fortunate to have been reincarnated into such a family. He also learns that he possesses a unique power not shared by anyone else. ARS decides to visit the training room, surprising the soldiers inside. He greets them and asks if he can watch from the entrance, to which they reply he'll be safe at that distance. They are astonished that the prince is visiting the training room at such a young age, believing he will grow into a great warrior. As ARS observes a master training a soldier, the master knocks the trainee down and chastises him, but the trainee stands up to try again. Curious, ARS uses his appraisal skill on the trainee to assess his abilities. He discovers that the trainee has exceptional aptitude for archery and deduces that he will excel with bows. The master acknowledges the trainee's tenacity, and ARS approaches him, calling out his name, which surprises the trainee, Melee, as he didn't expect ARS to know him. ARS asks Melee if he has ever used a bow. Melee responds that he never would, as a real man fights at close range rather than shooting from a distance. ARS suggests that he might actually be good at it and encourages him to try. After some deliberation, Melee picks up a bow and arrow, admitting he's never shot one before. A soldier suggests getting closer to the target to minimize risks, but ARS confidently assures them that Melee can hit the target from where he stands. Melee notches the arrow and aims, releasing it to hit the bullseye. The soldiers, initially skeptical, are amazed and ask him to shoot again. Melee fires several arrows, all hitting the target perfectly, and they declare him a natural archer. Melee begins to realize that using a bow isn't so bad, as all is fair in war. The soldiers wonder how ARS was able to identify Melee's talent, and he attributes it to instinct. While the soldiers are impressed, ARS knows that if he reveals his appraisal skill, they wouldn't believe him. During dinner, ARS is delighted by the chef's meal but is interrupted by his father, who expresses his admiration for ARS discovering Melee's talent with a bow. ARS feels intimidated by his father, who always appears stern. Using his appraisal skill again, he checks his father's stats and is amazed that he rose from a farmer to a noble due to his martial arts skills. His father advises him to sharpen his instincts, hinting that he could one day become the lord of the land. He believes ARS's ability to sense others' talents will be valuable. His father offers ARS his portion of dinner to help him grow stronger, which ARS gratefully accepts. After that day, ARS studies more about the empire, realizing the future is uncertain due to rampant corruption and upcoming revolts among the commoners, with various nobles pushing for autonomy to suppress the unrest. ARS fears an impending war if circumstances do not improve and wonders how he can protect the people of Lamber who have treated him kindly. Recalling his father's advice about instincts, ARS has an idea. He dresses up and ventures into the streets, using his appraisal skills to examine the stats of townspeople. Exhausted from prolonged use of his skill, he sits in an alley when a woman chases a man out of her shop, refusing to sell to him. ARS discerns that the man looks different from the locals. A boy points out the man is a Malson, pleading with his mother for help, but the townsfolk avoid him due to his filthy appearance. ARS recalls that the Malson are a group who migrated to Summerforth from across the sea, many brought as slaves. He decides to offer the man some bread. Onlookers are astonished that the heir of House Lent would help a Malson. The man accepts the bread, tears streaming down his face. ARS appraises him, surprised to find his stats nearly perfect, indicating he could become a formidable warrior. After thanking ARS for the bread, the man attempts to leave, warning him not to follow as the townspeople will react negatively. ARS asks if the man would like to become his retainer, catching him off guard. ARS plans to utilize his ability to recruit those with potential, aiming to strengthen his domain. The man, named Rates, thinks ARS merely wants him to pretend to be a retainer. ARS introduces himself, displaying his family crest, which leaves Rates stunned. ARS insists he senses great talent in him and wishes to offer him the position. Despite Rates' reluctance, fearing the backlash from townspeople, ARS reassures him he will handle it. However, Rates declines the offer and walks away. Determined, ARS continues to pursue him, knowing he may not encounter someone with such potential again. When Rates' stomach growls, ARS uses this to entice him, promising a buffet of delicious food prepared by their chef. Rates hesitates but ultimately decides to follow ARS home. At ARS's residence, Rates is astonished to learn that ARS is genuinely the son of the Lord. The chef serves them food, but Rates receives a smaller portion because he is a Malson. The servants rudely instruct Rates to leave after his meal, prompting ARS to realize how deeply rooted the prejudice against Malson is. Aware he cannot change the servants' minds, ARS shares his food with Rates, which surprises everyone. The maids decide to provide Rates with a better meal, allowing him to eat to his fill. Curious, ARS asks Rates about his past. Rates reveals he was once part of a mercenary band that disbanded after many members were killed. Since then, he has been wandering. ARS wonders why Rates didn't join another group, and Rates explains he wasn't hired due to lacking accolades. A servant insists it's time for Rates to leave, but ARS interjects, asserting he has brought Rates home to become his retainer. The servants warn that Lord Raven will disapprove, but ARS takes the matter to his father. Lord Raven expresses disapproval at the idea of a Malson as a retainer, but ARS argues that they would waste Rates' potential if they dismissed him. His father insists that Malson are inferior and cannot possess any special talent. Disappointed that his father holds such conventional views, ARS attempts to persuade him otherwise. He suggests testing Rates, and Lord Raven agrees, intrigued by ARS's confidence in Rates' abilities. He tells ARS they will conduct a mock battle between him and Rates, employing Rates as a soldier if he proves talented. ARS is apprehensive, knowing Rates is no match for his father, but his father insists they will give Rates a handicap. They prepare for the duel, and Rates wonders why ARS is fighting so hard for him, thinking it may be pity. ARS assures him he doesn't have to accept if he doesn't want to, but Rates acknowledges this is the best offer he has received. Rates, still amazed that a Malson is being treated with such respect, agrees to do his best. As he enters the training room, the soldiers are surprised to see a Malson. ARS's father asks Melee to prepare their swords, while Rates brings an hourglass. He tells Rates to pick up a sword and explains that if he can land a single blow on him before time runs out, he wins. ARS thinks the odds are in Rates' favor. Before the duel begins, Rates introduces himself and announces he is Lord Raven. The duel commences, and Lord Raven strikes first, but Rates narrowly avoids the blow. As they exchange blows, Rates understands he must stay calm to have a chance. He reflects that there are no tricks and uses his instincts, remembering his days in battle. While dodging, Rates witnesses a golden opportunity to strike back, swinging his sword, but his father blocks the attack effortlessly. Lord Raven declares Rates possesses talent, and even goes as far as to express hope that he can prove useful. However, just as Rates prepares to counterattack, he misjudges the distance and is knocked down, earning a reprimand from Lord Raven. In response, ARS feels an urge to protect Rates, realizing how unjust the world can be. As the duel continues, Rates manages to land a glancing blow on Lord Raven, and all the soldiers are amazed. The duel ends, and Rates has successfully earned his place as a retainer. With newfound respect from the soldiers, Rates understands that ARS genuinely believes in his potential. His heart swells with emotion, knowing ARS is his ally. ARS realizes he has not only gained a retainer but a true friend. Rates arrives, carrying several large boxes meant for the castle's head chef. It's been several months since Rates first began working under Ars's service, and his presence has become a staple in both the household and territory. Though he's yet to participate in any major conflicts, Rates loyally stays at Ars's side, dedicating his time to both study and training. With rigorous effort, his intellect has reached an impressive level of 89. Known for his natural talents and determination, Rates is quickly accepted by those around him who grow to understand his character. One day, Rates approaches Ars, eager to study together. He explains that his most recent studies covered the history and ambitions of the Sumforth Empire, an expansive entity that once sought to unify 7 independent nations. Ansel, one of these territories and separated by a treacherous strait, had strategically traded with foreign nations to amass the power needed to dominate its neighboring regions. After subjugating each nation, King Anithis of Ansel claimed the imperial throne over 203 years ago. Rates notes that the current state of the Sumforth Empire is one of decline. The reigning emperor, Bidoras, is a mere 8 years old, leaving the true reins of power in the hands of his vassals, many of whom are corrupt. Without cohesive leadership, rebellion has become widespread across the empire, and dukes in each duchy have begun asserting their autonomy, weakening the empire further. Ars reflects on this unrest, realizing that while immediate warfare might seem unlikely, the need for people like Lord Raven to remain prepared signals that a greater conflict is probably inevitable. Determined to prepare for what may come, Ars decides to use his skill in recognizing talent to find capable allies. However, deep down, Ars hopes to avoid war altogether. Turning to Rates, he asks where Rates believes the next conflict could arise. Rates theorizes it would likely start within the Duchy of Mysian. The current duke, elderly and ailing, has 2 sons, with the younger son possessing the stronger qualities of leadership. Rates suspects that the rivalry for succession could ignite a war if the old duke's passing comes before a clear successor is established. Ars contemplates who his father, Lord Raven, might support. Rates believes that, while Raven might favor the eldest son's claim, he lacks a direct obligation to Mission's authority, as Raven's loyalty is bound to the head of Canar, the duchy where the Lamberg family resides. Ultimately, Ars recognizes that his appraisal skills might be instrumental in determining whom he should align with should a power struggle unfold. However, the thought worries Ars. He's still only a child, with minimal experience in battle, and the only person he has managed to recruit is Rates. If his father were to be drawn into a conflict, it could put everything at risk. Rates, seeing Ars's concern, adds that the opposite could also happen. If Ars shows valor in battle, he could quickly rise in rank. With that in mind, Rates is committed to growing stronger to protect Ars. They both agree it's time to start seeking talented individuals to bolster their ranks. Heading out of the castle, they find Lord Raven immersed in his training regimen. Raven has been spending most of his time honing his skills, aware of the threat of impending conflict. Spotting Ars, he asks if they're headed into town. Ars responds that he's on a quest to find skilled individuals, and Raven urges him to search for someone proficient in magic. When Ars asks why, Raven simply remarks that magic will be critical in future battles. Though Raven himself lacks magical prowess, he acknowledges its importance. Rates agrees, believing that one powerful mage could drastically alter the tide of war. Ars recalls casting magic only once before, using a peculiar device containing a ball of red liquid. Following a short incantation, he had managed to produce a small fireball. After that, however, Raven had prohibited him from using magic, deeming it too weak. Raven departs with a parting sentiment, affirming his faith in Ars's decisions. Shortly after, Ars and Wrights ride toward the fortified city of Karan. As they travel, Ars considers how invaluable a skilled mage would be to their growing forces. He is determined to secure the future of both the Luvent family and the Lamberg domain by assembling exceptional individuals. Upon arrival, the bustling city streets stretch out before them, teeming with over 50,000 residents, making it 50 times larger than Lamberg. Karan Castle looms on a nearby cliff, the stronghold of the Piles family, Karan's ruling authority. Ars gazes around, noting the affluence of the city's citizens. Dreaming of a day when Lamberg's people might live with similar prosperity, he comments on the city's impressive scale. Wrights, however, reminds him that among this population, finding talent might be easier. Using his appraisal skill, Ars surveys the crowd, but exhaustion soon takes its toll. His efforts yield no remarkable results. Many appear ordinary, without notable skills or potential. The abilities Ars sees are defined by numerical values and competency ratings, with each individual's capability resulting from the combination of these two factors. Wrights reassures him, saying they've only just begun and that finding the right people will take time. As they continue walking, Ars's gaze lands on a narrow alley, where he notices people living in poverty. Wrights, glancing back, remarks that poverty is the unfortunate counterpart to wealth, a reality that the city's affluence conceals. Though Ars yearns to help them, he recognizes his limited power. Nonetheless, he resolves to keep searching for talent among the impoverished, driven by a desire to build a better life for all. Wrights is visibly proud, understanding firsthand how kindness from someone like Ars can change a life, as he once did for Wrights. Unbeknownst to them, a figure lurks nearby, secretly watching their every move. The two friends eventually reach the marketplace, where Ars's mouth waters at the sight of delicious food. A merchant catches his eye, boasting about rare dragon eggs, claiming they can hatch into dragon companions. Tempted, Ars imagines himself soaring through the sky atop a dragon. Just as he's about to buy 3, Wrights quickly intervenes, pressing his knife to the merchant's throat and exposing the fraudulent scheme. Furious at the man's audacity in deceiving Ars, Wrights declares a death penalty. However, Ars manages to calm him, and they continue their search, with Wrights apologizing for the scene. After a meal by the water's edge, Ars wanders off to buy sweets, but soon realizes his money pouch has disappeared. Spotting the thief, Wrights lifts Ars and gives chase, cornering her in a secluded alley. Before they can reclaim the pouch, a gang of thugs blocks her escape. They jeer at her defiance, calling her a runaway. When one thug raises a hand to strike, Ars intervenes, demanding they stop their cruelty. Incensed, the thug lunges at Ars, but Wrights steps in, swiftly dispatching him and the others who follow suit. With the thugs fleeing, Ars finally gets a good look at the girl, a young thief named Charlotte with impressive magical potential. Ars immediately sees her as a potential ally, offering her a chance to join him as a vassal. However, Charlotte scoffs, offended at the notion of being someone's tool. She has never even used her magic and dismisses the idea of becoming a vassal to a pampered noble. To her, Ars represents the very privilege she resents. However, Ars listens to her frustration, revealing that he, too, hopes to change the world for the better, to create a city where even those like Charlotte can live comfortably. But Charlotte counters, pointing out the harsh reality she and her people endure daily. Ars, unable to sway her, reluctantly asks for his money back, which she grudgingly returns before storming off. That night, as Ars contemplates their encounter, Wrights joins him on the balcony, noting the cold summer night air. He reflects on Charlotte's anger, confessing that he, too, was once resentful toward nobles. He assures Ars that he's different, possessing a rare empathy. Ars, though humbled, realizes he may have taken his privileged life for granted. Deep in thought, he agrees with Charlotte's criticism, questioning whether his goal is too idealistic. Just then, a group of children rushes over, crying out that Charlotte has been captured by the same thugs from earlier. Charlotte, trying to recall the last time she cried. Her mind drifts back to her childhood, alone in an alley while other children walk joyfully with their parents. It was in those moments she realized that, unlike them, she had no family, no one to take care of her. Whenever she ventured near people, hoping for some kindness, they moved away without a glance. Once, desperate and starving, she asked someone for food, but they only shoved her back, treating her as if she wasn't even human. Over time, everyone's cold indifference began to weigh on her, as if they were silently telling her she had no right to exist. Her spirit grew hollow, and she struggled to understand why she was even born. Now, in the present, Charlotte finds herself in a dark hideout, surrounded by thugs. They beat her viciously, their punches landing heavily, yet she doesn't flinch or cry out, almost as if she's beyond feeling. In the corner of the room, a man sits with a cigar, watching her. He orders his men to leave her face untouched, mentioning that he has already sold her and wants her to be presentable. One of the thugs catches sight of a coin pouch Ars gave Lace and, realizing it holds quite a sum, reaches for it. Seizing a rare moment, Charlotte grabs the pouch and makes a break for it, but she's quickly pulled back. She remembers the children she used to watch and wants to help them, but she is powerless in her current state. With a sneer, the boss tells her there's no point in running. Even if she did escape, she would only return to a life of poverty and hardship. He taunts her, saying her life is over and that if she holds a grudge, it should be against her parents, who left her to fend for herself. At that moment, Wright storms in, moving with practiced strength, and immediately subdues one of the thugs with a powerful blow. As the chaos unfolds, Ars arrives and rushes over to Charlotte, asking if she's all right. Noticing him, the boss sarcastically remarks on how rude it is for strangers to intrude without permission. Using his appraisal eyes, Ars identifies him as Albert Garnier, the leader of a slave trade network. Taken aback, Albert demands to know how Ars knows his name and, realizing Ars is a noble, asks him what he wants. Ars, undeterred, demands Charlotte's release. Albert, feigning confusion, replies that Charlotte is his property, a slave. He laughs, noting the irony since it's nobles like Ars who buy from him. But Ars firmly states that he doesn't engage in such vile practices. Charlotte, struggling to understand his intervention, tells Ars to leave her alone, that this has nothing to do with him. But Ars explains that the moment he saw the empty look in her eyes, he felt an inexplicable concern for her. He reveals that her ambition level is 1, meaning she has no ambition, no hope, no fight left in her. Albert laughs mockingly, but Ars continues, explaining that ambition reflects one's deepest wish, a commitment to not give up, to look to the future. Without it, people become hopeless, like Charlotte. Albert shrugs, insisting that slaves are not entitled to dreams or futures. But Ars counters that it's the duty of adults to protect the future of children, to nurture their potential. Charlotte, he says, should be able to choose who she wants to become, not have it decided by someone else. Hearing Ars's words, Charlotte recalls her childhood decisions, the time she had convinced herself that crying wouldn't change anything and that her fate was sealed from the start. She had learned to guard her heart, believing that vulnerability would make her weak. But now, listening to Ars's compassionate words, something inside her shifts and she begins to cry, releasing years of silent suffering. One of Albert's lackeys snarls, accusing Ars of talking nonsense in front of their boss. Albert silences him, pointing out that, noble or not, Ars is still a child. However, he's had enough of the lecture and orders his men to get rid of Wrights and Ars. Wrights immediately steps in, expertly taking down thug after thug. He disarms one with a bottle, sends another sprawling, and even manages to counter 2 men attempting to cast magic at him. As each man falls, Charlotte watches in awe, astonished by Wrights' strength and skill. Realizing he's outmatched, Albert calls in his most powerful fighter, a former infantry captain dismissed from the Kanar army for misconduct. The captain enters, drinking heavily, and demands more alcohol before he fights. Albert orders him to take care of Wrights, but the captain, seeing Wrights' calm demeanor, is skeptical. Wrights, unimpressed, tells the captain to worry about his own skills. Angered by the remark, the captain lunges forward, only to find that Wrights dodges every attack with ease. Wrights retaliates with a series of powerful hits, sending the captain staggering backward. Ars, watching from the side, remarks that with Wright's skill, none of these thugs stand a chance. Charlotte, unable to believe what she's seeing, starts to see a glimmer of hope. Terrified, Albert realizes he's been thoroughly defeated. But he tries to salvage the situation, reminding Ars that the slave trade is officially sanctioned by the county chief of Kanar. Ars calmly offers to pay Charlotte's full price to settle things. Albert, still shaken, argues that it isn't as simple as that. Wright interjects, pointing out that slave trading is built on reputation. If it becomes known that Albert's merchandise can be taken so easily, it would ruin his credibility. To save face, Albert could simply claim he sold her at a high price, preserving his business image. With no other option, Albert grudgingly agrees. Ars thanks Wright for his support and, with relief, asks Charlotte to return home with them. She reaches for his hand, sensing that he is unlike any noble she has known. On the way back, she shyly asks to take him to a special place. Together, they climb a cliff, reaching a breathtaking view of the city under a rising sun. She confides that this is her sanctuary, where she comes to clear her mind. Hesitantly, she asks Ars why he wants to build a city where even the poor can live freely and happily. Ars reflects on his memories from his previous life, explaining that he loves children because their smiles are filled with hope and innocence. He shares how, despite life's hardships, a child's joy can bring a sense of peace and optimism. Adults, he says, should strive to protect this hope, but instead, many trample it. That's why he dreams of building a city where everyone, regardless of background, can have a chance at happiness. Listening, Wright and Charlotte smile, touched by Ars's ideals. Charlotte, feeling a renewed sense of purpose, decides to join Ars, explaining that she, too, wants to work toward a future where children can thrive. Wright, intrigued, decides to test her abilities. He hands her a magical tool he found at the hideout and asks her to try casting magic. Though Charlotte has never attempted magic, she raises her hand and recites a spell. To everyone's astonishment, she conjures an enormous fireball, which erupts into a powerful explosion visible across the town. Wright and Ars stare in shock, marveling at her potential. The tool shatters, but Charlotte beams with pride. Ars congratulates her on her incredible gift, and Wright acknowledges her strength. Charlotte then asks if vassals receive a salary, wondering if she can send hers to the children she left behind. Ars assures her that she will be well provided for, with both shelter and food. Content, she agrees to work for him, even though the thought of serving a young noble amuses her. As they continue home, exhausted by the day's events, she begins to drift off to sleep. When they finally arrive, Lord Raven expresses doubt about Charlotte joining them, concerned for a woman's safety in combat. Ars encourages Charlotte to show her skills, and, with a display of her power, she quickly convinces Lord Raven of her worth.